protest march that we are taking to the office of the MEC for failing to implement this and mitigate against this.
Political analyst Dr. Charles Sinkala says the debacle between Zambia and the Lungu family has had a negative impact on both parties. Dr. Sinkala says the manner in which the matter has been carried out has sent the wrong message. His comments come after the dispute over the burial of the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu has been postponed indefinitely in the High Court to allow for the matter to be heard in the Constitutional Court. The Lungu family lawyer turned to the Apex Court last week after the High Court ordered that the former president's remains be repatriated to Zambia for burial. Lungu died in June while receiving medical attention in Johannesburg. He told Channel Africa that Africa should desist from bringing such issues to the fore.
Even though we sympathize with both parties, especially the interest of the family to put to rest their deceased family, we must also consider the impact that has done to the national interest and as well as the productivity of our nation.
The main rebel group in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the M23, has walked away from peace talks with the government. It says it will not return unless the authorities adhere to a previous ceasefire deal. Fighting between the two sides escalated in January when the M23 captured large parts of the mineral-rich east, including the regional capital Goma. The rebels and the government signed a ceasefire agreement intended as a step towards a permanent peace deal in Qatar last month. However, as negotiations were set to resume yesterday, the M23 said its representatives were not present in Qatar. And lastly, diphtheria cases and deaths have risen sharply this year in Somalia. The General Director of Somalia's National Institute of Health, Hussein Abukar Mohammed, said more than 1,600 cases, including 87 deaths, have been recorded, up from 838 cases and 56 deaths in all of 2024. Diphtheria is a bacterial disease that causes swollen glands, breathing problems and fever, and mostly affects children. It is preventable with a vaccine. Response has, however, been curtailed in Somalia by vaccine shortages and U.S. aid cuts. And lastly, a formal response is awaited from Israel after Hamas had agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza in exchange for the partial release of Israeli hostages in 2 batches. The latest proposal was mediated by Egypt and Qatar and based on one put forward by US earlier this year. The BBC's Yolanda Neal.
This is part of a last-ditch effort by Qatar and Egypt to reach a deal and avoid a major new Israeli offensive to occupy Gaza fully. But in recent days, Israel has said it would no longer accept a partial deal, only a comprehensive one. Local media quoted a senior Israeli official saying Israel's position hasn't changed, release of all hostages and fulfillment of other conditions defined for ending the war.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, history made as All Chan co-hosts reach the quarterfinals of the tournament, while Yasmin Paulini is beaten in the final of the Cincinnati Open by Iga Swiatek, who is now officially the Queen of Cincinnati. Well, details of these and other stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
We're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And on today on hashtag Africa Update Us, we focus on the latest human rights report coming out of the United States involving Kenya, revealing a deterioration in the human rights situation in the sub-Saharan country. Now, our question to you is, have you seen the report from your country, and what does it tell you? Share your thoughts and your views on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook, at Channel Africa. You send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406 9126. That's hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The KZN Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and City of Umhlatuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, ATIFA helps bring their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategical insights on investment in trade in services sectors such as tourism. Join us for TIFA 2025 from August the 27th to the 29th at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
It is 12:09 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Zimbabwe's President Emerson Mnangagwa has arrived in Japan for the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, the TICA D9. Mnangagwa is leading a delegation comprising of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Finance, and others for the two-day event, which begins tomorrow. And to speak to us further on this, we are joined on the line by ZANU-PF's Communications Director, Farai Marapira. Farai, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Farai. Hope you're also well. Now, who are those in attendance with President Mnangagwa? We know, we see that in the report, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is there, as well as the Finance Minister. Who else has tagged along for this one?
Well, the President has gone there with several members of government because this is a very important meeting for us as a nation. We look forward to be able to parlay and do trade with each and every country. So, we look at Japan as one of our potential big partners in business. So, quite a sizable delegation has gone so that we can tie as many agreements as possible, open up as many opportunities as possible. So, the list of the people that have gone is necessary but quite exhaustive.
Now, talk to us about some of the enterprises or business or state enterprises that are taking part in this year's event, and who are these enterprises, and what are they hoping will come out from this?
We're mainly looking at pushing ourselves forward as a country in the realm of technology, and as you can tell, the world has become premised on technology and issues there obtaining thereof. So we have sent in some parastatals, and we have sent in businesses that are big in technology because we want to bring an input of technology into our systems, and this will streamline our expenses. Technology has got a lot of positive effects on the growth of a nation's economy, and our thrust, as per the President, is to ensure that our economy continues to rise and continues to grow by the day. So we are looking at infusing technology and making ourselves as technologically compliant as possible so that we can be competitive on the global scene.
So on the ground at that summit, the Zimbabwe delegation will be there, and in terms of with any summit, I guess it is all about selling what a country has to offer. and to summarize what it is that Zimbabwe has to offer with regards to what the business what's the word, my trail of thought there, but what will work for both countries in whether it's the enterprises, whether trade, whatever it is that is agreed upon going forward. How will Zimbabwe be able to sell that across, and what will the country be able to sell across?
As Zimbabwe, we've thrown off the pariah status that we've had over the years through the disinformation campaign that was against us. And we are now one of the prime investment destinations in Africa. We are a haven of resource. And this is what we are building upon. We are a country that has opened its doors to all and sundry, and the president has made it very clear that our doors are open. We're willing to parley, we're willing to talk, we're willing to thrive together with anyone who wants to join us in mutual beneficiation. So this is essentially our angle, and this is essentially our message as led by our president. So what we're looking at is to look at potential investors, potential synergies, potential partnerships, anything that can aid us in pushing forward our growth agenda towards an upper middle income economy by the year 2030.
Well, Farai, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That's ZANU-PF Communications Director Farai Marapira joining us on the line. It is 13 after 12 Central African Time.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Today on hashtag Africa Updates Us, we focus on the latest human rights report coming out of the United States involving Kenya, revealing a deterioration in the human rights situation in the sub-Saharan country. Now, our question to you today is, have you seen the report from your country, and what does it tell you? Share your thoughts and your views on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The global initiative to galvanize political commitment for international humanitarian law is underway in Pretoria in South Africa. The event is being attended by heads of African diplomatic missions and aims to encourage participation from African Union states. One of the founding members of the initiative is the International Committee of the Red Cross. And to speak to us further about this event, we are joined on the line by the head of the ICRC delegation, Jules Amoti. Jules, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. It's Sarah Mabeza here, the Regional Legal Advisor.
Hi, Sarah. Sorry about that. I think
no problem.
We were looking at Jules, and yes, I've just been told there has been a change, Sarah. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, Sarah, tell us more about this initiative and what the hope is with the people in attendance and the delegations in attendance.
Thank you so much. So this initiative is really a recognition that the world is facing a critical moment. As I think, many of your listeners would agree, we just have to listen to the news to know that our shared humanity is being tested globally, really. And so for the International Committee of the Red Cross, there's a recognition that international humanitarian law, which is the law of war, is at a crossroads. And despite the fact that we have global consensus underpinning the 1949 Geneva Conventions, governments, we see today that compliance with even the most basic norms is shockingly insufficient in war zones across the world. So this global initiative is really an effort by the ICRC and by the 6 core governments of the initiative, which are France, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Jordan, China, and Brazil, to really try and improve and enhance political will for the compliance with international humanitarian law.
And how does this initiative assist in addressing the human cost of armed conflict?
Absolutely. So the idea behind international humanitarian law is that even wars have limits. And even though war is not necessarily prohibited, there are limits that need to be placed in times of war to enhance an element of humanity in the time of suffering. This initiative is really, it's not trying to reinvent the law. Indeed, the position of the Red Cross is that the law as it stands is enough. What's needed and what's currently lacking is compliance with that law. And so this initiative is attempting to stand in that gap. To really encourage governments worldwide to take a stand, to raise their hands and say that they will formally join this initiative. And in doing so, they commit to ensuring and enhancing and galvanizing political will for the compliance with the law in ongoing armed conflict. So it's really that bridge stage where we need to ensure that the law that does exist is being complied with, and that requires political will.
And speaking of compliance and political will, which countries are in attendance? And it would be interesting to find out if there is any conflict in their countries and how they will then return to their home countries and, sort out the crisis that a lot of citizens on the ground are facing.
Absolutely. So this initiative is actually running for 2 years. It started in September 2024 and it will come to an end at the end of 2026. To date, we have approximately 15 African governments who have formally joined the initiative out of about 75 states worldwide that have joined. So that's quite a good number. The effort today was to bring to DIRCO, to the South African Department of International Relations and Cooperation, to bring together the ambassadors and high commissioners of the African Union member states present in Pretoria. So we had a very high number of participants. I would say we had approximately 40 countries at least represented, many of which were represented at the ambassadorial level, a number of which did come from conflict zones, as you mentioned. And there was definitely a feeling of a united sense amongst the participants in the room that we absolutely needed to stand together as AU member states to try and enhance the compliance with IHL.
And what are some of the practical engagements that will take place during this event?
Thanks so much. So this event has actually just come to an end. It was a morning event at DIRCO, but the initiative, as you refer to, is ongoing and will only come to an end at the end of next year. Throughout the initiative, we hope to see many engagements. I can share with you 2 brief examples. The ICRC office in Addis Ababa will be co-hosting in October with the African Union a high-level meeting for AU ambassadors to the African Union to discuss this initiative. And in December this year, once again, the ICRC and DIRCO will co-host our annual regional seminar on international humanitarian law, at which stage this high-level initiative on galvanizing political will again be addressed. And perhaps at this stage, I can just mention that as South Africa is one of the 6 core governments that founded this initiative, we've seen extremely high levels of support and commitment from the government, and particularly from DIRCO, for this initiative, culminating in the event this morning.
And in the event this morning, Sarah, what sort of contributions were made by these ambassadors and the high commissioners, I guess, from all the different countries that were in attendance?
So at the event this morning, which was really a ministerial briefing, we had a very interesting and comprehensive briefing by the Deputy Minister of DIRCO, Deputy Minister Alvin Boertes, which set the tone for the discussions. A number of ambassadors did ask questions and share some comments following the discussion, one of which was the very practical question of how do we join? How does an African or any state for that matter actually formally join this initiative, which we had the ability to discuss with them. But another interesting comment that came through in the discussion was really about how can all states take advantage of existing fora to ensure that this initiative is raised. And one of the things we discussed concretely was how states, particularly African states, could use the upcoming United Nations General Assembly Summit in September as a platform for having these discussions about compliance with IHL.
So we're definitely looking forward to having a discussion with you then going further, as this is just 2026, and this is an ongoing event, for lack of a better word, that events that will be taking place. So where is the next one? Are they all going to be in South Africa, or are you going to be moving from different countries?
Yeah, absolutely right. There will be a number of them across the world. This initiative is quite a large undertaking. The aim of the initiative is that by the end of next year, when it comes to an end, we hope that all states worldwide will have joined. There are certain work streams that are the more substantive aspect of this initiative. So we have a work stream, for example, on IHL and peace, on protection of hospitals in times of war, on cyber warfare. And these different work streams will have states consultations and experts meetings. They've already started, and they will carry on until the end of next year. We'll have more high-level events like the one we had this morning in Geneva, in New York, in Addis, and again in Pretoria, all with an aim of contributing to this initiative. And maybe just to mention that the initiative will culminate in a global meeting.
Oh, Sarah, we seem to have lost you there. Sarah, are you still there? All right, we seem to have some sort of network issue. Sarah, are you still there? All right, it's Sarah Mabeza, ICRC Regional Advisor, joining us on the line. And, a lot happening on that front, as you heard with regards to ambassadors of different countries who are based in South Africa taking part in the morning session that took place at the DIRCO offices in Pretoria. And hopefully, as she mentioned, that even the countries that are in conflict in their countries, the ambassadors and high commissioners were there, and hopefully something positive and to bring peace in their countries will then take place. It's Sarah Mabeza, ICRC Regional Legal Advisor, joining us on the line. It is 24 after 12 Central African Time.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
This August, we celebrate the strength, brilliance, and unstoppable spirit of African women.
It was the women themselves who strove for and got the changes by lobbying, going through NGOs, and by networking.
That's you, ladies. From the boardroom to the classroom, from the marketplace to the microphone, women are leading, innovating, and transforming our continent every day.
Here's to knowing that as a woman, your voice can change the world.
Your voice matters. Your story inspires. Your presence is powerful. This Women's Month, we honor you. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 26 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Council of Ministers of the Southern African Development Community convened in Madagascar to deliberate on key programs, policies and interventions aimed at accelerating deeper regional integration, strengthening peace and security, and fostering inclusive economic development. A highlight of the meeting was the ceremonial handover of the SADC chairpersonship of the Council of Ministers from Professor Amon Muriwa, Minister of International Relations and Trade of Zimbabwe, to Dr. Raffaravitafika Rasata, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Madagascar. Human rights activist and researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs, Advocate Sipho Mantula, weighs in on the meeting.
This is very historic for Madagascar as one of the small islands in the continent to assume the chairpersonship. It is a mammoth task that the SADC, one of the challenges that they've been going through for the past 45 years, is this question of integration, industrialization, the question also of how to deal with trade amongst themselves. But I think also Madagascar takes this chairpersonship also under the guidance of South Africa, that come 2026, South Africa will be the incoming chair of the SADC, also being supported by when I look that for Madagascar, the main challenge that they will be facing is to how to understand also the dynamics around climate change, as they've also been going through cyclones. The second question of energy transition, because the question that this region needs to have efficient power supply is very important. But finally, I think for them, it will be important how to navigate the conflicts that are within the region of SADC. It's very important for them to understand what will be their role in that peace, the Africa Lead initiative in the conflict of DRC. Migration, immigration of young people living in the SADC region to the global north, or also to the U.S. Despite that, we know already what is the attitude of the U.S. towards the SADC countries with this global traffic of tariffs that we have seen. But also the impact on SADC. This is the year where the AU has declared as the year of reparation and the year of access to justice. Is how does SADC member states also look into the global geopolitics of the war on trade that we see on tariffs, the second one being the global conflicts. Besides looking at the Middle East or the conflict that is in Sudan, it is also having an impact on SADC. The conflict that is in Russia and Ukraine also impact on SADC in terms of trade. When you look at the bulk of the young people in the SADC region are the ones who are facing challenges of unemployment. They are facing the challenges of having a better future and in terms of dealing with poverty and hunger. You look at the conflict in Mozambique that is silent in the media, Cabo Delgado, that the youth and the women of Mozambique are still struggling. So that already affects trade. It affects integration. And finally, I think SADC has not been doing well with what I call the non-state actors platform, what we call the SADC national committees. All member states of SADC have to have what we call people-to-people interaction. Not only heads of states, meeting amongst themselves and diplomats. We need to reboot the SADC system as the frontline states to say, where is the people-to-people's contact or the national committees can improve integration and trade?
That was human rights activist and researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs, Advocate Sipho Mantula. It is at 12:30 Central African time, and our news headlines up next with Onelin Zinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Sudan's army chief appointed a raft of new senior officers in a reshuffle that strengthened his hold on the military as he consolidates control of central and eastern regions and fights fierce battles in the west. The E-Hailing Partners Council in South Africa says following their demands, which fell on deaf ears, for government to resolve ongoing tension between e-hailing drivers and taxi operators, they are marching today to the Gauteng Legislature and Provincial Roads and Transport Department to protest against unresolved issues. And European leaders have welcomed U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement that the U.S. would be involved in providing security guarantees for Ukraine. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with the latest sports news. At the Sawa, so for the very first time in the CAF competition, 3 co-hosts, that is Kenya, Tanzania as well as Uganda, have all advanced to the quarterfinals of this year's competition, sending a powerful message of unity as well as ambition across East Africa. So the co-hosts of the Total Energies Africa Nations Chan tournament have each secured a quarterfinal berth, a collective achievement that has gripped the East Africa as well as ignited passion for the home support across the region. So Kenya topped Group A. There was also Tanzania topping Group B, while last night Uganda finished off as the top team in Group C following a thrilling 3-all draw against South Africa. So this historic feat has also added weight to the tournament's pamoja spirit, which is a Swahili word meaning together, with the 3 nations not only sharing hosting duties but also celebrating on the field their success stories at the conclusion of the group stages of the Chan tournament. Back home now, Kaizer Chiefs assistant coach Khalil Ben Youssef has reiterated that the head coach Nezraddin Nabi, who is away on compassionate leave attending to his injured wife in Tunisia, remains fully involved with the technical team's planning for the games. So after the first 2 wins in the Betway Premiership against Stellenbosch FC as well as Polokwane City, with Nabi still away, there has been murmurs from the certain section of the fans that Chiefs are winning in his absence now. But the assistant coach Ben Youssef has set the record straight again during a media open day at Naturena Village on Monday, saying that the coach is fully involved in the running of the technical team.
I think at this point they discuss a lot about it. The coach is not here or the coach is here. We are technical staff. We are all of us. We are family. We work together. We keep contact every day, every training session. We discuss. We make with Zoom every day meeting all the technical staff. We discuss about all the plans. We prepare the game together. And really, Coach Nabi is not here. Physically, he's not here, but he's with us. We work together. We are a team. We help each other, and we don't think about who is here, who is not here, because we are our technical staff. We work together.
On to rugby news now. Springbok head coach Rassie Erasmus has backed Jesse Kriel as the ideal man to lead his side following what he called an embarrassing defeat to Australia in the Rugby Championship opener at Ellis Park Stadium over the weekend. So with Siya Kolisi sidelined by a knee injury, Kriel takes over the captaincy role. Now the experienced centre first led the Boks against the Barbarians earlier on in the season before becoming South Africa's 67th Test captain against Italy in Pretoria. Erasmus also praised Kriel's leadership qualities, calling him a student of the game who leads from the front. At one stage, the Springboks led 22-0 at Ellis Park by Joe Schmidt's Wallabies side stormed back with 38 unanswered points to seal a historic 38-22 win. It was also South Africa's first Test defeat since September that also ended the hopes of a clean sweep to retain the Rugby Championship crown. At the same time, coach Rassie Erasmus had this to say about the Boks and the build-up, of course, to the second Test match against the Wallabies of Australia this coming weekend.
There was 4 of their tries where there wasn't even a phase that we say put up. It's an intercept pass here, it's an offload there, and it's a ball that bounced there, which they worked for so hard to be in those positions.
And finally, in some tennis news now, the world number 3 Iga Swiatek said winning the Cincinnati Open will give her a boost of confidence before the US Open begins on Sunday. Now, the 6-time Grand Slam champion secured a dominant 7-5, 6-4 victory over the Italian 7-seed Yasmin Paolini to clinch a maiden title at the WTA 1000 event. The 24-year-old Pole was in fine form throughout the week in Ohio and did not drop a single set. She now heads to Flushing Meadows looking to claim a second US Open title for the final Grand Slam of the season, having triumphed at Wimbledon just last month. It's 12:36 p.m. Central African Time. That concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Stella Longwe. Pamalonje.
Palitu soko mapano pamalonje. Kumvera nyimbo za mu Africa kusangalala kupeza moyo akuti kumva moyo kuti kuyenda bwino pano pamalonje ndiyetu apa tili ndikatswiri oyimba ameneyu ndikatswiri wa dziko la Malawi amene akukhala mdziko la South Africa ndipo amayimba amene akuti ndi Big Nick Malawi. Yatusati kuti kodi moyo wanu oyimba ukuyenda bwanji mu Johannesburg?
Moyo oyimba ukuyenda bwino wambiri chiliyonse chikutheka ndithu bwino.
Ayi azioneka chiliyonse chikutheka mofa magrasi anu apa mwaka akuti kumenya yonse azioneka zoti azikutheka ndithu mu Johannesburg.
Malonje panthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
With your business news at this hour, I'm Matabala Mahabe. Good afternoon. A coalition of Ghanaian cocoa farmers has threatened to bar officers of the national regulator from their farms to protect the newly announced producer price for the upcoming season. The farmers say the producer price could fuel illegal smuggling to the Ivory Coast and Togo. More than 300,000 farmers have expressed anger over what they consider inadequate compensation. Africa's largest mobile network operator, MTN, has announced that it is now the subject of the grand jury investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. The investigation will look into MTN's operation in Afghanistan and Iran. Group CEO Rafa Mobita says MTN was approached through its external U.S. counsel. The telecommunications company owns a 49% non-controlling interest in Iran Cell, while the stake in Afghanistan has been disposed of. Speaking during the company's results presentation in Johannesburg, Mobita says MTN is not being accused of any wrongdoing at this point.
We were as comprehensive as we can be with this kind of investigation. So through our lawyers, there was a request for the information, and we said we would collaborate. The request for information is related to our previous market of Afghanistan for prior years and Iran. So that has been their request. We are talking to them. They have not accused us of any wrongdoing. And that's as far as we can disclose to you right now, because anything else, to your point around, is it related to this? That would be speculation.
South African banks accused of rand manipulation are said to present their case to the Constitutional Court today. The plan to outline the financial and reputational damage caused by the Competition Commission's allegations of being a part of a banking cartel. In January last year, the Competition Appeal Court reviewed the matter against 28 banks, dismissing the case against most of them. Nosipo Hadebe has the details.
Despite the Competition Appeal Court's dismissal of the majority of the claims, the case is now being taken to the Apex Court. The institutions approaching the court include First Rand and Standard Bank, among other local banks. Their legal teams will spend the next 4 days arguing that some of the evidence presented, including conversations spanning over 7 years, is too weak to substantiate a single overarching conspiracy. Nosipocha Debe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And Intel received a $2 billion capital injection from a SoftBank Group in a major vote of confidence for the troubled U.S. chip maker in the middle of a turnaround. The equity investment announced by the companies is a lifeline for the once iconic U.S. firm, which has struggled to compete after years of management blunders that left it with virtually no foothold in the booming artificial intelligence chip industry. It will make SoftBank a top 10 shareholder of the Intel and add to the Japanese tech investor ambitions bet on the semiconductor and AI assets that include security on the continent.
What policy changes are urgently needed to strengthen employment and social protections for workers in the face of market volatility? So I think that you have to look at, firstly, policy that looks at the hardest hit. So your exporters have to then be protected from the unintended consequence.
A look at your financial indicators. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 530. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 24. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 38, and in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 19. The BRICS countries, $1 is trading at 5 real 41. Russia, it's 80 rubles 4. India, it's 87 rupees 37. In China, it's 7 yuan 18, and South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 61 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. A look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $3,337 and platinum at $1,343 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $65.88 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matapela Mahape.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
C'est notre invitée du jour, la belle Aïna Mwenze. Elle est là, certaines l'appellent Boss Lady.
Bonjour Monsieur Jolino.
Parlez-nous un tout petit peu de vous.
Je m'appelle Boss Lady Aïna. Je mets l'accent sur le nom de Boss Lady parce que je mérite cela après le travail fait. Et c'est une rémunération en titre de la personne que je suis devenue aujourd'hui. Épouse et une mère de 4 garçons. Et voilà ce que je peux dire pour l'instant.
Et vous vous êtes lancé dans le business, comment c'est venu?
En tant que mère et se retrouvant dans les pays étrangers, particulièrement en Afrique du Sud, je me disais que laisser les enfants sur la charge des travailleurs ou d'une bonne, ça serait pas très intéressant. Je me dis, je dois essayer de m'organiser et trouver un emploi que je peux faire.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, it is 12:45 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The latest human rights report coming out of the United States of America involving Kenya, revealing a deterioration in the human rights situation in the sub-Saharan country. Now, significant human rights issues included reports of arbitrary and unlawful killings, disappearances, torture or cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment, arbitrary arrests or detention, serious restrictions on freedom of expression and media freedom, and the significant presence of the worst forms of child labor. The report also revealed that while the government took steps to identify and punish officials who committed these abuses, an issue of impunity was a problem at all levels of government. And to speak to us further on this, we are joined in studio by Maxwell Kariuki, a Kenyan Member of Parliament. Maxwell, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update once again.
It's good to see you.
You know, just you hearing me going from point to point. We're talking about expression of freedom expression, media, challenges with the media being able to report and do their work freely and without any issues, and issues of child labor. I mean, these are coming out from Kenya, the hub of the east of Africa.
That's right.
This is a problem. And it is coming from the US, and the US is a great ally of Kenya.
That's right.
So how do we then, unpack this?
The US State Department report corresponds with the previous reports that we've been looking at. One of those is the reports from the Human Rights Watch. And the other one is the report by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, based in Geneva, Amnesty International, and many other rights group. And it corresponds with the same points raised by the senator who submitted a motion in the U.S. Congress to have Kenya's status of MNNA reviewed. It points out to abductions, unlawful killings, state-sponsored violence by the government. And the travesty of this whole thing, for example, Lulu, when it comes to unlawful killings, a while ago, not so long ago, here in June, a young man by the name of Albert Ojwang, a teacher, tweeted something against one of the top officials in Ruto's government. The next thing, he's being arrested. Police went to fetch him 300 kilometers away from the capital, brought him to the city, and then he's booked into police station and around 6. And by 2 a.m., Albert Ojwang is found dead. Now, there is a guy called Boniface Mwangi. He was a street vendor. This guy, when people went to demonstrate against Albert Ojwang's murder, this guy was not even demonstrating. He was selling masks, and a group of police officers pass by and start chasing him down the street. And one of the police officers picks a gun, aims at his head, and blows his brains out. During the June protests, when the police rampaged through our streets and towns, shooting in the air in frenzy, a 12-year-old girl is huddled in their home together with the mother and other siblings. They're not even protesting. But outside their home, the cops are shooting in the air. They're just shooting anyhow. Just shooting in the
randomly.
air. They're aiming guns at people's homes. And a bullet of high-caliber weapon tears through the roof and finds this little girl huddled at home watching TV, and it kills her. And on the issue of this report, especially on the transnational repression, Lulu, November last year, Uganda's leader of opposition, Kizza Besigye, is in Nairobi. Nairobi is like his home. He's always there. He's having a meeting. And then Ugandan police agents storm into the venue of the meeting, bundle him, blindfold him, gag his mouth, put him in a car, and drive him all the way back to Uganda. So he's been kidnapped right on our soil. Now, a BBC's reporter by the name of Maria Sarungi Tsehai, she is Tanzanian. She came to Kenya in 2020 seeking asylum. She's a critic of the authorities in Tanzania, and she's a whistleblower. She's doing her thing. She's about to go to the market or to the mall, and right outside that house, she gets kidnapped by unknown people who drive her around, stay with her for about 4 hours, demanding to access her phone and her social medias. And then she is released after that. And here is what people believe. This was done, these two incidents, Kizza Besigye's incident and Maria Sarungi's incident, were done in collaboration with Kenyan authorities and Tanzanian authorities, Ugandan government and Kenyan government. And these things are happening under the leadership of President William Ruto. Here is the most interesting thing. Now, next month, President William Ruto is traveling to the United Nations in New York to address the UN General Assembly. Now, people are wondering, what are you going to do? Because you are destroying the very tenets upon which the United Nations is based on. Now, the other thing is that last year, October, Kenya was elected member of the Human Rights Council. Okay? Now, here is the president. Our country is a member of this awesome Human Rights Council. He's traveling to New York. What is he going to tell people? Because he is, look, in broad daylight, blatantly undermining the very tenets that the Human Rights Commission is built upon.
Now, why are people not being held accountable? And what more needs to be done to ensure that accountability is laid where it should be? Starting with the president.
In Kenya, the theory of big man and the great man plays a very big role. As long as you have political power, as long as you're the president, as long as you're affiliated with the president, there's nothing institutions can do about you. And what we see, we do see incidents of selective prosecution. If you anger the president, then the next thing, the ethics and anti-corruption agents, they come after you. If you are criticizing the government and you're a top dog, the next thing is our revenue authority will be on your back, you know? So it's issues to do with, you know, lack of accountability, simply because you're a big dog and because you're a great man.
Press freedom, a big highlight.
Absolutely.
In this report.
Absolutely.
Why are we seeing the degradation of press freedom and just civilization in terms of citizens being able to be who they are?
The Kenyan media has come of age, and it has come a long way, and it has endured a lot of hammering, even during the last regimes. But the media that we have nowadays is very vibrant and active, you know? It's a watchdog, the fourth estate. Now, there is the regime, the government of William Ruto is definitely not going to be happy about the capability of today's Kenya's media, exposure, coverage, and all of that. Now, last year, a Media Max journalist was covering the protest in Nakuru City, and an officer, a police officer, riot police officer, aims a gun at her feet and shoots her with a 12-gauge gun. Now, you might have seen this. During the last protest that we had a few months ago, Larry Madowo, CNN's correspondent, a police officer fires a tear gas canister right at him. So I think it has to do with the agitation. The media is, I mean, if the media was not doing its job, the government would not be agitated.
And, you know, apart from the media, because now with the advent of social media, then people, anyone who has access to social media is able to post whatever it is that they need to post or what they're seeing on the streets. How do we then get this right? What does the Kenyan government need to do? And with this report, what needs to happen?
The Kenyan citizens are very active now, and they've become like the fifth, if I'll call them the fifth.
Yes, especially the youth.
Especially the youth. There's barely anything that you can do without them watching and without them reporting. Look, if we claim to be a democratic country, if we are to live by our reputation, being a country that is a beacon of freedom and liberty, then we've got to be able to abide by that. It cannot be, you know, Kenya's progress and transformation cannot be only about a matter of talk. Are we democratic? Then you got to let people be democratic. You got to let people have the freedom of expression. Stop going after people. And that's what we're seeing with this regime of President Ruto. You tweet something, they come after you. You post something, and they come and fetch you. They abduct you in broad daylight. So I think for me, the government of President William Ruto needs to respect our constitution, our supreme document, because our document is beautiful. I mean, it is the most beautiful constitution in the region. But you know what? It looks like it's just a document that is beautiful on paper. But when it comes to issues of respecting it, abiding by it, it becomes lip service.
Maxwell, you've been speaking and putting President Ruto's dirty linen, including his ministers, out in the open. Now, are you not worried with going back home and finding yourself being picked up at the airport and behind bars.
I was speaking to a friend of mine about the way I'm vocal, and he says to me, hey, you could be picked up. And then I was like, okay, what do I have to do? And a friend of mine said to me, hey, you need to tone down. You know, you need to be able to criticize, but with a little bit of a pinch of, a sandwich kind of criticism. But you know what? Again, I am not afraid. I'm not the only one. We are many. And our force of all these voices that are vocal and against the brutality, the violence, the kind of blatant murders that we are seeing of our own youths, children. I got to let you know something, Lulu, that we've had dictators in Kenya. We had President Daniel Arap Moi, who was a feared man, and he reigned with a reign of terror. We had Uhuru Kenyatta, we had Mwai Kibaki. We have never had a regime in our country that has gone after children. The youths, these are kids. You abduct them, you shoot them, enforce disappearance, you throw them in jail. I am not concerned. I'm surrounded by powerful support. The guy that you just spoke to the other day, Saitabao Olekanchori, is a very scathing lawyer, and plus others. So I'm like, you know what, you bring it on, and then we will deal with it as it comes.
All right. Well, Maxwell, it's been a pleasure hosting you, and we really appreciate your time. And anytime you're here and in Kenya, you let us know what's happening. It's always a pleasure chatting to you.
Appreciate it.
That is, thank you, and to you too. That's Maxwell Kariuki, a Kenyan member of Parliament, joining us once again live in studio here at Channel Africa. It is 12:58 Central African time, and I guess it is a wrap of Africa Update. I know that the Upside team is here, and are they going to come in and have a chat to us quickly about what's coming up today? Yes, Tebogo Lukuleni is here. How are you? We've taken up your time. Yes, I think so. I think, yes, Tebogo Lukuleni is in studio, and he will give us an update of what's coming up on the Upside.
All right, so very quickly, amazing conversation you just had. Gentleman who just walked past me, smells very nice. So we're going to be talking about the high costs of quick results when it comes to changing your physiques, trying to lose weight, but we're going to be talking about illicit weight loss drugs that you buy online and the high costs of that when it goes wrong. What then happens? Because now everyone is trying to do Ozempic.
Yeah, no, Ozempic is Ozempicing, hey?
It really
is. No. You see people today, and like 2 weeks later, a person looks different, and you're thinking, what? So it's worrying.
Scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
And then we'll be getting into conversation with Yusuf Stevens, Cheeky Studios Chief Executive Officer, and Jonathan Boynton Lee, writer and lead actor of a film coming up called A Cop and a Half. That's all coming up on the Upside this afternoon.
That's the Upside coming up at the top of the hour with Tebogo Lukuleni and Matsiko Musito. From myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, our producer Tracy Bumgard, and our technical coordinator Bongi, and social media Sfiso and Renee. It's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow, and continue with us on our social media platforms. Bye-bye.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And we look at your latest news this hour. Sudan's army chief appointed a raft of new senior officers in a reshuffle that strengthened his hold on the military as he consolidates control of central and eastern regions and fights fierce battles in the west. Sudan's army, which controls the government, is